Hello friends, my name is Ngum. Welcome to Ngum's Garden Possibilities. Thank you for coming back if you're a returning subscriber. And if you're new to this channel, welcome and join the family. If you watched the previous video, we had prepared the garden ground so we could get the garden ready for planting. I had started some things in my indoor lower space in the house, and it's time to put them in the ground because they are running out of room in these containers. So let's head over to the garden and show you what we're planting today. I'm also going to share with you some tips and tricks on how I use my kitchen scraps to enrich the soil in my garden. Here I'm showing you how you can do trench composting using your kitchen scraps. It's a very easy way to compost. Basically, I dug a hole in the ground like you can see, and I dumped in my kitchen scraps, and the anaerobic process happens with the soil microorganisms, and the nutrients are added back into the soil. It also attracts worms in the soil, and the poop from the worms adds to the nutrients in the soil. And then over time, the fibrous material that is left over adds to the soil composition and just helps to aerate it. So it's just an easy way to use your kitchen scraps to compost if you don't have a composting bin. So this is my nursery with some of the plants that I nursed indoors earlier on in the year, and they're ready to be transplanted. These are the different kinds of onions that I started indoors from seed. I have some shallots, red burgundy onions, red bulb onions, sweet Spanish onions, Walla Walla onions, scallions, and then some Hamburg rooted parsley. The onion varieties you plant depend on your planting zone. So there are short day, intermediate day, and long day onions. And basically that depends on the amount of sunlight you get in your area. So look at your seed packet when you buy it and your zone of planting, and that should be a guide. When transplanting, as you can see, you want to make sure you have a healthy root system before you transplant any kind of plant or the onions like you're seeing there. You could also buy onion starts from your local garden center, and they usually come in a bunch of about 50 or 100, and that can work too. Here I am transplanting sweet bitter leaf that I had started indoors. So when transplanting your seedlings, you want to make sure that you get the entire root system and put it into the ground so it gets a chance to establish. I am planting a taro root or colocasia plant to provide some shade for the bitter leaf. I have 2 of the taro plants on this bed, and as the leaves broaden, then they will provide shade for the bitter leaf. Here I am planting the bitter leaf. Its scientific name is Vernonia amygdalina. I'm planting it from the stem because it's easier to propagate that way, and you plant it based on the orientation of the bulb. The orientation of the leaf or the nodes on the stem should guide you as to which part to put in the soil. Use that as a guide. The bitter leaf does not survive our Minnesota winter, so I preserve the stems in water over the winter time, changing about every week, and then eventually put them in potting soil. So I'm putting them in the ground, and then you cover it up, water, and that's it. I also planted some rainbow chards, which I enjoy eating in my salads. Here are some herbs that I typically use weekly in my kitchen, and I'm planting them in my garden. I have a whole raised bed dedicated just for herbs that I use for cooking and for tea. Sweet basil is one of the herbs that I enjoy using, so I had started some that I've already transplanted in the ground. I'm gonna scatter some seeds around the established plants, which is the principle of succession planting. It allows you to harvest different generations of the same plant throughout the growing season. I'm scattering a few basil seeds over at the top. Here I bought a rosemary plant. My rosemary seeds had very poor germination, so I'm giving myself some grace. I'm gonna eventually propagate the stems, and I'll share that in another video. Here I have scattered some seeds around the established Thai basil plants. Again, the idea of succession planting. I have lemon basil and holy basil, which were plants that I brought in over the fall and they overwintered inside. Again, I'm continuing with the principle of succession planting. Over here, I have some green onions or scallions that I have planted. These you can plant once and harvest throughout the summer as well. Another way to cut down on cost with herbs is to plant herbs that are perennials. Here is one example. It's called lovage, but it comes back every spring and it has a really strong parsley, celery flavor. Here I have some pineapple sage. I love using it to season my chicken and also for tea. I'm looking forward to the flowers it produces. Thyme is another perennial that comes back year after year in my zone. Here we have some celery and celery root. Another way to propagate celery other than from seed is by cutting the bottom part of the celery that you buy from the store. And you can put that in water so it forms roots and then eventually put that in the ground. It grows faster that way. I have this space near the house. It's a small space that I'm also going to till and prepare for planting. Part of this space is going to be used for vertical growing of cucumbers and zucchini. So I want to build a trellis using the closet rack. I'm going to build that and use it as my trellis for planting vertically. By growing vertically using a trellis in your garden, you help to maximize the small space and increase your productivity. It can work for plants such as zucchini, cucumbers, tomatoes, vine plants that can wrap around the trellis. To set up the trellis, first I dug a hole in the ground which was about 2 feet. Then I put in my T-posts and ensured that it was secured. I put in the stones way at the bottom to provide adequate stability. And then I put in my racks on each side, and then I use zip ties to secure the racks to the T-posts, and that was about it. I'm here at my community garden here in Minnesota, and I'm planning to prep the soil for planting. We enjoy using this space because it gives us the advantage of planting crops that take a lot of room, like zucchini, corn, pumpkins, squash, tomatoes, more peppers, different things that we can add to our pantry. Last fall, we added some leaves that decomposed over the winter and again added to the richness of the soil. We did not want to wait for the tiller to prepare the ground for us because they could only come at a much later date, and we wanted to take advantage of the growing season by starting early with prepping the ground and planting. That way we maximize our harvest. So we prepped the ground manually using our hoes. The hoe is a common farming tool that is used in Cameroon. And using the hoe, the preparation process consists of gathering the grass and the leaves and building a ridge over that using the soil. Here we're mixing the soil and the leaves to provide better aeration so it doesn't remain compact. After we gather the grass and the leaves underneath, then we now add soil on top to cover that up. It forms what you call a ridge, and then you have the furrows, which is like a path for getting around in the garden. Once the garden beds were formed, we used some weed fabric, which we folded and then cut holes into the fabric at specific intervals, which will allow us to plant. Then we covered certain beds with the weed fabric and secured it with pins. The pins come with the weed barrier when you purchase it from the store. The purpose of this is that it's going to help to conserve water. That saves you time in the garden, reduce the amount of weeds that will grow and weeding around your crops. So it also saves you time in the garden. I'm soaking this corn overnight so that it germinates faster. You can soak it for 24 to 48 hours. I have some potatoes that germinated in my basement. They are called seed potatoes, so we're going to plant those too, as well as some eggplant that I started from seed. On this bed, we're planting different kinds of sweet peppers that I started from seeds inside. I want you to appreciate the root system and the height of the plant. It's a healthy plant to go in the ground. Here I am planting lemongrass. These seedlings I started from seed, and then the other ones are lemongrass shoots from an established plant. Those grow faster versus the seeds. I also have a variety of tomatoes that I started from seed, and I'm gonna plant them in the ground. This is just an example of a tomato plant with a healthy root system. Here we're planting different types of eggplant. So on the beds that have the weed barrier, we have sweet peppers, hot peppers, and different types of tomatoes, as well as peanuts. Another option for gardening is doing container gardening. In this space, I'm going to plant some carrots. So I've traced a line using my fingers, and I'm going to thinly scatter the seeds along the line. I also planted some parsley in this container. You always want to label what you plant so that you know what to expect when you're harvesting. After doing this, we put a layer of leaves as mulch over the carrots and parsley and then watered down perfectly so that the seeds won't dry out. I also planted some garlic in the fall, which is in the containers here. Again, another option for something that you can grow in a container. After planting, the plants have picked up, and this is an overview of what the garden looks like. I will keep you posted on how my crops are doing, what pests I'm dealing with, and I'll be glad if you share your gardening journey with me. If this video was of importance to you, please like, share, subscribe, and come back again for more videos. Thank you.